The Soyuz 11 mission launches on June 6, 1971 from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The crew consists of Commander Georgy Dobrovolsky, 43, Flight Engineer Vladislav Volkov, 35, and Research Engineer Viktor Patsayev, 38. All three are experienced cosmonauts, though Dobrovolsky is making his first spaceflight. Their mission: dock with the Salyut 1 space station and spend 3 weeks conducting experiments. By 1971, the United States has already won the most visible prize. Apollo 11 landed astronauts on the Moon in 1969. The Soviet Union, having failed to land cosmonauts on the Moon, pivots to a different objective: long-duration spaceflight and permanent orbital presence. If the Americans can claim the Moon, the Soviets will claim space itself. Salyut 1 is the world's first space station, launched by the Soviet Union in April 1971. It represents a major achievement in the space race against the United States. The Soviets want to demonstrate long-duration spaceflight capability and establish permanent presence in orbit. But the station's initial mission failed when Soyuz 10's crew couldn't properly dock in April, and now the Soyuz 11 is the second attempt. The failure of Soyuz 10 to dock with Salyut 1 in April 1971 is a major embarrassment. The station is already aging in orbit, its systems degrading with time. The Soviets know they may only have one more chance to make the station a success before it becomes unusable. The Soyuz spacecraft is small, barely 10 cubic meters of habitable space in the descent module where the crew sits during launch and landing. A critical small design decision affects this mission. The crew will not wear spacesuits. The Soyuz descent module is so cramped that it can only fit 3 cosmonauts if they wear regular flight suits instead of bulky pressure suits. Soviet space officials make the calculation that spacesuits aren't necessary. The Soyuz is designed to maintain pressure, and the crew can respond to any emergencies. This decision will later prove fatal. The mission proceeds smoothly. Soyuz 11 launches successfully and docks with Salyut 1 on June 7th. The crew enters the space station and begins their work. They conduct medical experiments, astronomical observations, and biological studies. They exercise regularly to counteract the effects of weightlessness. They speak with ground control daily and give television broadcasts showing life aboard the station. The cosmonauts break the record for longest spaceflight, surpassing the 18 days achieved by the American Skylab missions. They spend 23 days aboard Salyut 1, exceeding all expectations. The mission is a complete success. Soviet space officials celebrate this achievement in the space race. On June 29th, the crew prepares to return home. They transfer back to the Soyuz spacecraft, seal the hatches, and undock from Salyut 1. Everything functions normally. Ground control monitors their progress. The cosmonauts report no problems at this point. The return sequence begins on June 30th at 1:35 a.m. Moscow time. The Soyuz fires its retro rockets to begin deorbiting. The burn is successful. The spacecraft descends toward Earth's atmosphere. The automated systems guide the descent module through reentry. The heat shield protects it from the friction of atmospheric entry. The parachutes deploy on schedule. The soft landing rockets fire at the correct altitude. The capsule touches down gently in Kazakhstan at 2:16 a.m., exactly as planned. Recovery helicopters spot the landing site quickly. The beacon is functioning normally. Recovery crews rush to the site, expecting to greet the heroes who just broke the spaceflight endurance record. They open the hatch and find 3 dead cosmonauts. There was no sign of an accident. It looked as though the crew had simply fallen asleep. The scene is eerie. The men sit in their seats, properly strapped in normal positions. There's no sign of struggle or panic. No equipment is damaged. The capsule's interior looks completely normal. But all 3 cosmonauts are dead, their faces dark with hemorrhaging, their eyes showing burst blood vessels. The recovery team immediately seals the capsule and calls for medical personnel. Doctors examine the bodies but can do nothing. The cosmonauts have been dead for over 30 minutes. The bodies are transported to Moscow for autopsy. The investigation determines the cause quickly. Engineers examine the capsule and find the pressure valve in the open position. Telemetry data shows the exact moment pressure began dropping. The timeline becomes clear. During the separation from the Salyut space shuttle, something goes wrong. Explosive bolts fire to separate the modules. The shock causes a pressure equalization valve to open prematurely. This valve is designed to open at low altitude, around 4 miles up, to equalize the capsule's internal pressure with the outside atmosphere during the final descent. At 104 miles, there is no atmosphere. The valve opens directly to the vacuum of space.
The capsule begins venting immediately. Air rushes out through the valve opening. The internal pressure drops rapidly. The cosmonauts have seconds to react. They would feel their ears pop as pressure drops. Breathing becomes difficult as the air thins. Within 40 seconds, they lose consciousness from hypoxia, lack of oxygen to the brain. The cosmonauts attempt to close the valve. Later analysis shows Dobrovolsky unbuckled his harness and tried to reach the valve, located behind their seats. But it requires manual rotation with considerable force, and it's in an awkward position. He cannot reach it in time. The investigation also reveals that the cosmonauts might have survived with one simple change. If the crew had been wearing pressure suits, the depressurization would have been survivable. The suits would have maintained pressure around their bodies even as the cabin lost atmosphere. The Soviet space program had removed spacesuits to save weight and space, allowing a 3-person crew instead of 2. This decision cost 3 lives. The tragedy devastates the Soviet space program. Georgy Dobrovolsky, Vladislav Volkov, and Viktor Patsayev are given state funerals. Their ashes are interred in the Kremlin wall, reserved for Soviet heroes. Monuments are erected in their honor. Schools, streets, and craters on the moon are named after them. But behind the public mourning, the space program undergoes major changes. Most significantly, they mandate that all future Soyuz crews must wear pressure suits during launch and landing. This requirement remains in effect today, over 50 years later. The suits take up more space, limiting crew capacity, but they provide critical protection against exactly this type of failure. The tragedy also highlights the dangers of the space race mentality. The decision to fly without spacesuits was driven partly by competition with the United States. The Soyuz 11 disaster
Watch the next video to see how one accident also changed aviation's rules forever.
Before 1971, the program operated with a certain amount of acceptable risk, pushing boundaries and sometimes cutting corners to beat American achievements. After Soyuz 11, safety becomes paramount. The Soviets never again fly cosmonauts without pressure suits during launch and landing.